All right. Good evening, everyone. The Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting for January 27th is hereby called to order. This is rescheduled from last Tuesday, January 21st, due to Winter Storm Enzo. Our opening prayer this evening is by the Reverend Braden Friday, pastor of Living Word Water Ministries. After that, Joy Masters, the Assistant City Attorney, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Would you please stand?
Let us pray. Father God, I thank you for another day that you've allowed us to come together to discuss the things that need to be discussed to better this community. And Father, I ask that you bless us and give us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, even as this discussion goes forth tonight. God, that something might come forth that brings honor unto this community and honor unto you. In the name of your Son, Jesus, I thank and praise you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Member Halligus? Here. Board Member Lucas?
Present.
Board Member Street?
Here.
Board Member Granger?
Present.
Chairman Rowan?
Here.
All present.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 4 is the approval of the meeting minutes from the November 19th, 2024 CRA board meeting. We would entertain a motion to approve those minutes as published.
Motion to approve?
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Here. I'm sorry.
Yes.
He was,
Approving the minutes.
he was moving my mic.
Yeah, sorry.
Here and yes.
Turned it on. So, all right.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. All right. Item number 5 is additions, deletions, and modifications to today's agenda. Mr. Chairman and board members, I have 2. What would become item 14 will be an acknowledgement of the staff and volunteers at 80 Harris for the warming center that was operated, requested by board member Lucas. And then the new item number 15 would be to discuss the Incremental Development Alliance and a workshop. And there will be a short video to go along with that, also requested by board member Lucas. Are there any other additions, deletions, or modifications from staff or from the board itself? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to add item 14 and 15 as recently described.
So moved. I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, is it? Yeah. Uh-oh. All right. Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll. All right, she's going to need a good mic as the secretary. There you go.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. All right. So items 14 and 15 were added. Again, item 14 is the acknowledgement of staff and volunteers at 80 Harris for the warming center operation. And then new item number 15, discuss the Incremental Development Alliance workshop. And then for new item number 16 will be the motion to adjourn. All right. Item number 6 is audience participation. This is open to any issue related to the Panama City CRA's authority, and remarks are limited to 3 minutes. If you would like to address us, please come to the podium and give us your name and address, and then the timer will start.
I'd like my time held, please, because of item 15 that was added. Brenda Lewis Williams, 1007 North Center Avenue. Whatever this incremental workshop is, there's no description of it on the agenda, so we have no idea what you're talking about. Now, I will begin. Thank you. And so an action needs to be taken on that to either delay it and have it at the next CRA meeting, because doing it this way, what you're doing today, you're not letting the citizens be informed. And I have objections to, in this CRA Social. Number 3, equal representation. By inviting all members of the public, CRA Socials remove the risk of self-serving representatives and ensure that all voices are represented authentically. That's an insult to the community. It's an absolute insult. And it's an absolute insult to everyone who sits on any board in this city. Read it again and let it and marinate it for a little bit. That is an absolute insult. I don't know who crafted this and who authored this document, but it needs to be pulled back. That should be deleted. At least the word self-serving. That would suggest that every representative on our commission is self-serving, which in some instances is the case. But at the same time, that does not need to be put in print and made for public consumption. That is an absolute insult to the people of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis Williams. Anyone else for public comment?
Michelle Bryant, 409 East 9th Street. I have 2 items to share today. The first is addressing item number 11. I want to note that the community supports the opportunity for businesses on MLK and 15th Street. It presents the opportunity for organic growth and the opportunity for Glenwood to have its own little version of a sweet bay. I also suggest that a refund be given to the city or the CRA from retail strategies. Their lack of research and due diligence of a simple strip mall of small businesses that are the equivalent of a mile away is lackluster and poor performance. The next item is item 13. I have addressed this CRA board of directors for over 2 years since the Mike Johnson debacle. And to read that city staff recommends against advisory boards as they are self-serving is insulting. Based off of this city staff research, they are saying that the DIB board, planning board, cemetery board, or any board that the city has is self-serving. I first want to note that I would like to request public records on where this particular research was found that states that advisory boards are self-serving. Myself, my mother, my aunt, Alan Branch, several members of the community, several people sitting right here in this room have served on boards in some capacity. And to imply that a citizen serving on this board is self-serving is disrespectful to those of us that have served proudly. And to be clear, no one has served on a board and has gotten paid. We have given of our time, our energy, and resources to be on a board. More specifically, as someone that has served on a CRA advisory board committee, no one here has asked any previous members on anything that was pending since the previous CRA director, Michael Johnson, was removed or resigned back in 2022. As a previous board member to date, no one has addressed the initiative of an African American community museum being brought. No one's addressed the artifacts that have been damaged and are still sitting at 80 Harris. Similar to what you guys are doing with the Civic Center, the board was looking to find funding and resources to bring back an African American culture center. But of course that got axed because what? There is no advisory board. The Rosenwald tennis courts was on the agenda. There was also community and business grants that was offered. This board right here voted to axe that and put all the CRA dollars into one capital improvement board. As a member of the community and a previous executive director, I submitted 22 applications from seniors which magically disappeared, and we were advised to have these seniors reapply, knowing that you were going to discontinue these grants and only gave citizens a 30-day window. CRA dollars are for the community. They are for blight areas such as downtown North. As you sit and you had a staff member say that this was self-serving, was the fact that you have community members no longer have access to community grants when you have someone on your board that offers community loans. Thank you.
Ms. Bryant. All right. Do we have any other public comments? Please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. And comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Emmanuel Hill. I live at 508 East 9th Street. I'm a lifetime resident of Panama City. I take it most of you here live in Panama City. My concern has been since I came back, I lived in England for 20 years. It's the infrastructure. Seems to be ignored, completely ignored. my street has been turned into Industrial Boulevard because I live across the street from where the fire trucks, the ambulance, all the city vehicles get their fuel. And the street, like I said, since I came back in 2006, there's not been any work done on the infrastructure. Any street you go down, either side of Harrison Avenue, you're dodging holes. I mean, not just holes, but you risk damaging your vehicle on most of these streets. I'm sure that some way, somehow, this could be addressed by the commission. Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is the CRA board. The commission meeting is actually tomorrow at 4:00, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Can you please give me your address again, just so I can check into that, though?
508 East Snow.
Thank you, sir. All right. Are there any other public comments for the CRA board meeting? Please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Patty Sunday. Not at my best health, so trying not to get close to the microphone. I like CRA funds. I like stacking incentives between grants, CRA funds, public funds, private funds, new market tax credits, opportunity zones. These are the ingredients of great cakes. So I'm thrilled if you look back, even before I lived here, to see some great things that the CRA has done in the past using those funds. I did want to share a little bit about grocery stores in case it comes up. Today, I pulled the data for the Publix on 23rd, and I compared it for the whole last year to our Piggly Wiggly. My husband and I are customers of both. Oh, I'm slow. Okay, let's get it. Oh, while I'm looking for it, I want to tell you that when you go to earn the business and the location for a grocery store, because I was blessed to work with some very smart people when I worked here, and we did one together, the one on 231. So I'd like to say that I have some experience in that. You turn in a form, and you turn in a form on location, and they check Placer the same way that I use Placer. Actually, I had Placer before Publix had Placer last time. That was a fun dialogue between us. They didn't know about it, and I sent them the reports. But anyway, what you have to look at is, do you have enough raw citizens within the trade market area? And then the second thing most of them look for, and I would say this for Publix and Aldi when Dixie now is no longer, the Albertsons-Kroger merger just took them out of the menu, right? I'm sure a lot of y'all saw that failed. You look for new growth. So if you're going to earn a grocery store location, yay traffic counts, yay rooftops, but right now it seems to be the third criteria that's very important to them is, can you show growth and new rooftops? Or have you gotten to the place, like for example in Sweet Bay, have you gotten to critical mass to where there is enough growth? One time, Mr. Henry came to the mic at City Commission meeting and said, hey, what's wrong with St. Joe? He was so right, because the reason that we were able to do the 231 grocery store, and that was our fourth location, y'all. It failed 3 times. It's a ton of work and fun. But the reason was because St. Joe and other private capital developers already had all their plans of the new rooftops that they were going to have there. And Mike Lane and I have to fill out at that time all those forms to show how much growth is coming. And that's how you earn a grocery store. 44,000 were at Publix last year and 28,000 at
Thank you,
Piggly
Ms.
Wiggly.
Sunday. We appreciate it. Are there any comments tonight from the public? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, public comment is now closed. I believe, and board members and staff, please correct me if I believe it, all the comments with the exception of Mr. Hills were in regards to items that are on the agenda for tonight that we will discuss as we move throughout. So we will address those comments as we get to the respective item number. All right?
Will we talk about self-serving? Because I think those two ladies that brought up that point about self-serving, I thought that was very appropriate.
I will
And, I would hope they
absolutely.
were- I don't think, we hope we're not self-serving, but anyway, I thought those were good points of discussion. So I want to make sure we're going to discuss them when that comes up. I think that's important.
Absolutely. We will, I'll be happy to address the memo, Mr. Chairman, when we get down to it.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 7 is discussion of the future of 447 Harrison Avenue, also known as Francie's or the Downtown Breezeway. As background information, the Downtown Breezeway located at 447 Harrison Avenue was obtained by the city with plans to create a pedestrian connection between Harrison Avenue and Grace Avenue parking lots. The downtown community expressed their desire to salvage as much of the building as possible, keeping with the historic character of the downtown area. In Phase 1, the CRA created the needed public walkway without any structural changes to the building and added other facade improvements such as paint and murals to make a more welcoming appearance. The CRA has been working with Florida architects to develop plans for a complete renovation to include all necessary structural improvements, a permanent easement for pedestrian walkway, public restrooms, and space for commercial development. The Downtown Improvement Board submitted a letter recently, also enclosed in your package, for city management to request the CRA forego further renovations in the current plan, suggesting the sale of the property in its current state. Staff seeks direction from the board for how to proceed with plans for the Downtown Breezeway. And I'll just note that the executive director for the Downtown Improvement Board, Miss Maria Williams, is here. She was hiding. So if you'll come to the podium and express the intent, I know we have the letter. But what the DIB is requesting, and then we'll have a time of deliberation. Ms. Williams, if you'll
You want
just
me to read the
fix that
letter?
mic.
Okay.
No, you can just give a quick summary if you
Okay.
want. I sent them the letter just for the public's record a couple weeks ago when we first got it, and it was also part of the agenda that they had over a week ago because again this meeting was delayed because of the storm.
Okay,
So-
perfect. Maria Williams, DIB. The CRA took over this project and the purpose of it was to create a walkway. Well, that walkway has been created. It's my understanding the city's not interested in getting into real estate as a leasing person. And it just makes sense to sell the remaining portion of the building, maintain the walkway as an easement, get it back on the tax rolls and not spend more money on it. It's taking up a big portion of the CRA budget. We have the smallest CRA budget in the city. And it's my understanding, it's about 47% of the CRA budget over the next 2 years.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, ma'am. So I will note, board members, you do see the budget is $625,000 over 2 years. $250,000 of that was budgeted this current fiscal year, and the final $250,000 will be budgeted in fiscal year 2026. And I apologize, I had notes written on the original agenda, but they updated it as I requested. So I'd like to ask Ms. Webb to please update the numbers, or Ms. Circle, whoever's appropriate. I want to know what we spent approximately on engineering, and then what we spent in-house to fix the breezeway up as it currently is.
I did get that information. I was going to bring it to you, but
It's all good.
it was not crazy. For what we've already accomplished with the breezeway, we've spent a total of $48,103. As far as design and engineering, so far we've been invoiced for, the total amount is $31,998.75. And they did give us a cost estimate for the build out that we have the 90% plans for, and the total probable cost for the whole project would be $483,148.
Thank you. Is there an estimated time of when they expect to be at 100% design?
They do have 100% design. They're going through with review right now.
Thank you. All right. At this point, we would turn it over to the board for any questions or entertain any type of motions in order to move forward with deliberation.
I have a couple questions. Is the proposal from DIB that we forego public restrooms or would they still be included in that? Maybe you could just give me some practicals of what you're saying keep and what you're saying sell.
So the easement would be kept to keep the walkthrough for it. They want to shift it over. They've got the plans. They could even include the plans with whoever chooses to purchase the property if you put it out for an RFP. With the numbers, with another $500,000 going into this building, there are no comps on Harrison Avenue that support you doing the build out and then selling it. I mean, you would just be losing money, not to mention private sector can do it so much faster than the city can. That's up to you all. I know the original plan was to put in public restrooms. That could be part of the stipulation that they have to do the build out of the public restrooms as well.
Okay. I think I've already expressed the opinion on this project, supportive of it moving forward, but I do think that probably this method is the most economical because, at the end of the day, like, it's prioritization for capital costs, and if there's private entity that's willing to have that capital cost, sounds like a pretty good deal for us, but I don't know what everybody else thinks.
When we bought this, what were we planning on? We were planning on a walkway. What were we planning on spending? What was our total amount to spend? Is it this 625,000?
Yeah.
That was before my time, Mr. Chairman, but I believe it was to the tune of $500,000 plus or minus was the plan all along.
Okay, she just said 483 is the plan now?
That's the construction estimate as of right now at confirmed 90% plans and 100% plans are in final review.
Yeah, we would have to bid it out, Mr. Mayor, and then get an actual cost once we receive proposals.
Well, we certainly need it. The question, I guess, becomes whether somebody else can do it more economically than we can.
Yeah, I think I would have a question, Mr. Chairman and board members, for Mr. Zimmerman, and that would be, if we did this, I know, I do believe in the private sector, but I mean, there's, how do we guarantee that they will take these plans that are in final review for 100% and without any real delay move forward with construction and also protect an easement into perpetuity for the city?
A couple of approaches. One is, as the DIB mentioned, you could sell it, reserve an easement, but if you want to make sure that the property is being used for the purpose that it was purchased for, and it was being used for the purpose of a walkthrough, you'd probably have some restrictive covenants that say that if it's not used for retail to enhance the purpose of the walkthrough or whatever you might want, or construct restrooms, then you'd have the ability to take the property back. That's a little cumbersome. It might be easier, and it would still get on the tax roll if you entered into a long-term lease. And in that lease, you have lease provisions where the owner of the lease would have an obligation as lessee to, I'm just taking an example, build public restrooms, keep the property in good condition. I don't know if I realize, and then the city would reserve, of course, this walkway area. Either way would get you there. There'd still be property taxes that would be paid, whether it's a long-term lease or if it's sold. Either would also have provisions on how the city could take back the property if the owner or the lessee just didn't do what they were supposed to do. But those are details, but the business decision could be done either way.
I think the only real important thing is to have an easement for the walkway. I think everything else we probably talk. Why don't we just do we need a motion for this, or is it just a discussion?
No, I think if we want to move forward, I think a motion would be appropriate to give staff direction. If y'all would like more information or to take additional time, we could also table this to the February meeting. But you do have this ask, from the DIB, and I think they would support, getting moving on this sooner rather than later. We do expect the first half of Phase 2 of the Harrison Avenue streetscapes to be at substantial completion in late March or early April. And so that would coincide very nicely with hopefully kicking off this project in a very formal fashion.
I know this is it's on the subject, but it's not on the subject. But one of the things, I've had a few comments about that the walkway's not clear. So regardless of what we do, if we could somehow get signage, it says welcome to downtown, but that doesn't necessarily people understand, oh, I can walk through over here. Like, so I think there's a clearer way probably to delineate the walkthrough than what we currently have.
Understood, sir.
What would be the process of reallocating these funds? Where we just decide to do as the DIB is requesting?
Pick a new capital improvement project downtown.
Maybe signage for the walkway.
Explain that.
This way, big arrow. I'm fine selling it. I think we don't need to put any other burden on anybody who would purchase it other than maintaining the easement.
I agree with Brian. I think our restrooms are open now at McKenzie. Not yet? Oh, I thought they were. Okay.
Well,
I say that I would like to make a motion that we have an intention of selling it and have meetings with the DIB as well as any other business owners that want to come down there on the part of the restroom part of it is kind of concerns me that we may need that or not. But I also know what it's like to sell to a private investor. And, if you put too many stipulations on, I'm not sure we'll get any offer. So can I just make a motion that we just get into y'all get into the discussion and work with the DIB and the business owners and citizens and, whatever it may be to see what we can do and still put an easement in there. I'm definitely game for selling it.
So would your motion then, Board Member Halligan, be to sell it then?
Yes.
With the stipulation that the CRA staff work with the DIB to consider the concerns that you've raised?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board on item number 7?
Yeah, I'd like to know how much we paid for this. I know we exchanged some land, but how much did we pay? And then I'd like to know how much we have to get out of it. I would think if we're going to sell it, we need to make sure that we're going to get a certain amount out. And I'd be curious if anybody that's knowledgeable in real estate has looked this over and tried to give us some real estate advice in this. So how much did we pay for it? First question.
I'm going to have to defer to either Ms. Waldron or Mr. Zimmerman on that. No, that was before my time, but I know there was a property swap and then there was also some monies exchanged for the swap was with the old Mulberry property, which was the county building, DMV, et cetera.
Since we talked about it, I haven't gone back to look, but it seems like it was in the $500,000 range, approximately. But we can have that information. If this motion were to be approved, my interpretation is that all those questions would be and answers would be presented back to the CRA board with a draft request for proposal to go out on the street for somebody interested in purchasing the property, retaining the easement, things like that. But I didn't look it up since we talked.
Nevin,
Right.
you're correct. It is 500,000.
I shouldn't have admitted it then.
So just for the public and the board's clarification, the property was swapped and the $500,000, we paid that or it was paid to the city?
It was the value. It was, in other words, the values of the property were more or less equal. So
Okay, so there was no cash flow. It was just
it
property
may have
swap.
been a
Thank
little
you.
bit, but not much.
And we've put about 80 into it so far, it looks like.
That is correct. 48,000 for the work to create the safer breezeway and to clean it up. And then not quite 32,000 for the engineering, which the plans are 100% with final review working.
Okay.
And I would just state, before I entertained in my role selling of any property, I would request the logistics department and the purchasing division to get an appraisal on the property to understand what the value was, to help us in our decision-making and any type of negotiation.
Okay. Well, it seems that it doesn't matter a great deal who owns it. If we've got to have the bathrooms there, and we got to have a breezeway, and we need an elevator or something like an elevator down at one end. Because it's got to be so disabled people can come through. People that park in the back can, in the back on Grace Avenue can come over and come through. So if whoever we sell it to can do all those things, then selling it certainly is okay. But we certainly have to make a certain amount of money to be even for what we spent and what it's worth.
I concur. So I think what I'm hearing is the motion and the second would be to move forward with selling it. However, we would work with the DIB, find out what they desire to see, what the city desires to see, and then work with the city attorney's office in drafting an RFP that we would bring back at the February meeting for this board to give final approval on.
That's it.
All right. Very good. Is there any further discussion? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
How I said it. I'm just kidding.
Board Member Halligan?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Roan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 8 is review of the finalized TIF rebate program guidelines and application. At the CRA board meeting on November 19th, 2024, several potential revisions to the TIF rebate program were discussed, and staff was instructed to finalize the guidelines and application. Attached, you will find the finalized TIF rebate program guide and application that were made available to the public on the CRA website by the board requested deadline of December 9th, 2024. Also attached is the performance agreement template for your review and approval. The first reading of Ordinance 3259 requesting establishment and approval of the TIF rebate program was presented to the Commission at the January 14th, 2025 Commission. The second and final reading will occur tomorrow at the January 28th, 2025 City Commission. Staff recommendation is that the board acknowledge the changes that were made and give final approval to this program. Mr. Zimmerman, would you like to make any comments, sir?
No.
All right. Would entertain a motion to affirm the changes that y'all made to the TIF rebate program at the November 19th, 2024 CRA board meeting.
A motion we approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
One question.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, like, I know we had talked about putting a timeline, like at some point in time, this comes up for reevaluation. If it's there, I didn't see that. That was the only thing that I saw missing. Like, even if it's at a valuation point in 3 years or something like that.
You're talking about the overall program.
The overall program.
Not
Just so that
individual.
there's a set evaluation point for us, and it can be, 3 years in the future. Anyway, I don't know what everybody thought about that, but that was part of our discussion. I didn't see that change.
I do recall it being part of the discussion, but I don't remember it being a final.
Well, it wouldn't be included in the program application package, right?
Right.
It also wouldn't be included in the performance agreement template. So it would really, literally just be, hey, can y'all bring it back to us in 3 years?
Right.
Yeah,
To-
that's
to-
really what
If I may, it was, actually what it was requested was a forced review after 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was in
So there
our
is-
minutes from the last meeting.
You got that in the calendar?
I do.
All right. All right. Okay, good.
And also,
We'll
I
add you to the
believe,
invite.
I believe, or no, we didn't have, GAI's not this week, never mind, so.
And I remember the expert saying we would need that much time to be able to really evaluate
Yeah.
whether it was right or not.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be in the agreement. There is a set timeline that there will be a forced review of this particular policy in 5 years from the date that it's approved. Okay.
Were there any other significant changes? Since we're talking about changes?
I don't remember there being any significant changes. I believe y'all stuck with the 90% max, 15 years. Ms. Waldron, Mr. Zimmerman, do you remember any other significant changes that we can refresh the board's mind regarding? I think those were it. So, all right, is there any further discussion or questions? All right, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Granger,
Yes.
Board Member Street,
Yes.
Board Member Halligus,
Yes.
Board Member Lucas,
Yes.
Chairman Rowan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, item number 9 is consideration and approval for the Panama City Tax Increment Rebate Program application submitted by 436 Harrison LLC and the authorization to execute a performance agreement contingent upon the approval of ordinance 3259 at the City Commission meeting tomorrow, January 28th, 2025. As background information, on November 19th of 2024, the CRA Board approved the Panama City Tax Increment Rebate Program application and directed it to be made available to the public by December 9th of 2024. Excuse me. On December 23rd of 2024, Stephen Counts, on behalf of 436 Harrison LLC, submitted an application under the program for the redevelopment of 436 Harrison Avenue, located within the CRA's downtown district. In accordance with the program requirements, staff reviewed the application for completeness within 10 business days. Following this review, the executive director, myself, completed my evaluation and provided my recommendation within the required 25 days, determining the project meets the criteria set forth in the tax increment rebate program guidelines. For an award rate was determined to be 90% of eligible program costs based on the project's inclusion of an affordable housing component, a mixed-use component, and amenities or infrastructure improvements desired by the CRA not to exceed $1,163,665.56 and not to exceed a duration of 15 years. Approval of this application is requested contingent upon the adoption of ordinance 3259 with the second and final reading scheduled for tomorrow, January 28, 2025, which was delayed due to the holiday schedule. The executive director recommends approval of the Panama City Tax Increment Rebate Program application submitted by Stephen Counts and 436 Harrison Avenue LLC for the property located at 436 Harrison Avenue, and further recommends that the city enter into a performance agreement at an award rate of 90% with a total award amount not to exceed $1,163,665.56 and a duration not to exceed 15 years, contingent upon the approval of ordinance 3259 at the City Commission meeting tomorrow, January 28 of 2025. I will just note that Mr. Counts and other representatives from 436 Harrison Avenue LLC are here and would be glad to answer any questions the board may have. Other than that, we will entertain a motion to approve for the purpose of discussion and deliberation from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this recommendation and TIF application. Is there any questions or deliberation by the board?
I have a couple of points of clarification.
Now you want to talk. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Zimmerman. Thank you, sir.
Just the first item is that this, what you have in front of you requires that the actual agreement be recorded. We believe the best practice is that the agreement not be recorded in the official records, but like a memorandum of agreement, which often you'll do a memorandum of lease. It's my understanding that Mr. Counts is aware of that and is okay with us doing a one-page memorandum understanding in the official records, which will put people on notice that this agreement exists. The second point I wanted to make is that under your guidelines that you approved, it talks about the fact that an award recipient who sells a portion of the subject property may continue to receive the award amount with approval of the CRA governing board. And this agreement is in line with that, but does talk about that you are granting approval because it says if the award recipient sells a portion of the subject property, the award recipient will be able to continue to collect the TIF rebate amount in full as long as the recipient maintains ownership of a portion. So my point is that the guidelines require approval. The agreement grants the approval as far as being able, as long as some ownership interest is retained. And in this case, the goal is that this property be a condominium and that the ownership group will retain ownership of a portion of that. Those are the two things I wanted to point out. And I believe that that Mr. Whaler at least has received a copy of everything, and Mr. Counts, and you're in agreement with what is being presented. Okay.
Are there any questions or discussions amongst the board?
Are we approving this development of 436 Harrison Avenue? Are we just approving they have an agreement with the CRA?
You're approving the TIF rebate.
Okay, my question is, the proposal has 15 condominium units. And I don't remember how much retail, but it was quite a bit, which is great for downtown, but I'm concerned about the parking. We got 15 units down there. Where are they going to park? And are we requiring parking?
So again, as we discussed earlier today, Mr. Chairman, parking in downtown has been what's the word? Deregulated. Thank you. However, I think you bring up a fair question as to where exactly their residents will be able to park, and there could potentially be some frustration that is shared down the road with this board. So I would ask either Mr. Whaler or Mr. Counts to please come to the podium and address that concern for the board. You can just give your name and company. Thanks.
Tim Whaler. Yes, the ownership group owns a parcel adjacent to the building parcel, because the building is 100% lot coverage for this parcel. They do own an adjacent parcel that will be able to accommodate some parking for the condo unit specifically. And then other than that, the parking will be similar to the other buildings downtown that are 100% lot coverage, meaning the building covers the whole lot, where it's shared in the public spaces. Laverne Avenue, immediately adjacent to this property, does have about 30 on-street parking spaces. And then this property is directly across from the Panama City Breezeway, so that there is access to the parking on Grace Avenue as well.
Oh, when you sell these condominium units, won't you tell the people that buy them how much parking they have?
I'm not sure what they're going to tell them what parking they have, but there is land for parking spaces for the condo units. It is
15 spaces?
That I don't know how many spaces exactly. It hasn't been fully designed yet.
Okay, so parking is going to continue to be the Wild West downtown then?
That's the way the land development codes, written specifically because the historic buildings cover the entire lot. So in order to provide parking for this project, you would have to tear the building down. And the whole point of the CRA is to make sure that the historic structures get renovated.
Or buy parking somewhere else, which maybe you have.
Which they have.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
you
they
don't have to tear the building down to make parking.
That's true.
Yeah, I get it. So you got parking, not sure how much, don't know what you're going to tell the condominium owners. They're probably, maybe they'll buy it without parking, who knows?
But a lot of urban areas have a similar setup where part of urban living is having parking that is not immediately on site with the property. So
I see, okay. Because you got retail too, so I would imagine that parking would be important to the owners.
absolutely. Just like any business, downtown parking is hugely important. I mean,
Yeah.
customers have to park somewhere.
Mr. Whaler, is it your intention to designate the parking, which I believe you're saying is on Laverne, correct? For specifically the condo residents and not the retail?
That is the plan, correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Whaler. Are there any other questions from the board? All right, seeing none. Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 10 is consideration and approval for the Downtown North CRA to reimburse SHIP funds used to jointly purchase parcels located in the Downtown North CRA district. As background information, in between 2016 and 2020, the city acquired several parcels at the southwest corner intersection of East 15th Street and MLK Boulevard in the Glenwood neighborhood. These acquisitions were funded by the Downtown North Community Redevelopment Agency and the State Housing Initiative Partnership Program, initially for the development of single-family homes in line with SHIP guidelines. Now, with the goal of fostering economic revitalization in the Glenwood neighborhood and addressing the need for affordable housing, the CRA proposes a mixed-use development through a public public-private partnership, or P3 model. This project aims to create a vibrant community hub for the Glenwood community. To move forward, the CRA will reimburse SHIP for its share of the funds used to acquire the parcels, thereby enabling the mixed-use development to proceed. Staff recommendation is to approve the transfer of funds in the amount of $373,489.59 from the Downtown North CRA to SHIP for the parcels purchased at East 15th Street and MLK Boulevard. The recommendation is on the table, and staff would entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the recommendation coming from staff.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, there's a second. Board Member Lucas, is there any further comments? I apologize, ma'am.
No, I don't want to say.
I'm just trying to advance what you were.
This is an opportunity for us to put together the land for attracting a grocery store, retail, perhaps even residential mixed property. And this is the first step as we move toward getting a grocery store in the Glenwood community.
All right. Is there any further discussion or deliberation from the board?
One question on the SHIP funds that are being reimbursed, is that moving back to the state, or is that reimbursing the city's SHIP program, and then it'll be reprogrammed by?
By our housing department.
So it's really just a more of an internal bookkeeping.
Internal transaction.
Yeah. But it does, but to Commissioner Lucas's point, you can't do anything until you've done this, so.
Correct.
So.
All right, is there any other further questions or deliberation by the board? Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item number 12 is the presentation and approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 CRA Annual Work Plan.
Did you do 11?
Nope, did I skip 11? I apologize. Just making sure y'all are paying attention. Good job. Item number 11 is discussion and consideration of redevelopment opportunities for vacant parcels at the southwest corner of MLK Boulevard and 15th Street. As background information, the Community Redevelopment Agency, or CRA, entered into a 3-year contract in May of 2024 with Retail Strategies, a retail economic development consulting firm, to assist the Downtown North CRA in positioning the property at East 15th Street and MLK Boulevard for future development. American Design Group, a Georgia-based developer, submitted an unsolicited offer letter to city management expressing interest in entering negotiations for the development of this site. The letter was presented to the City Commission at the September 12, 2024 meeting, and staff was directed to collaborate with Retail Strategies to develop a request for proposal, RFP. Retail Strategies provided a letter outlining their recommendation and is available via Zoom this evening to answer any questions regarding this effort. Additionally, a proposed draft RFP has been prepared should the board choose this option for the direction they wish to take at this time. Staff seeks board direction on moving forward in the redevelopment of the property at the corner of East 15th Street and MLK Boulevard. At this time, I would like to recognize staff, again, who is joining us via Zoom from Retail Strategies to provide an update and share their perspective on this particular property that they were hired by the CRA board to help us with. Retail Strategies?
Hey, good evening, all. Thank you so much for making some time for us this evening, and we have certainly enjoyed it and are continuing to appreciate and look forward to the work that we're doing in conjunction with your teams. We think that in our position is that it's a great project. We think that it's a project that that will prove to be very beneficial, not only for the local community, but also for the economic development goals of the city and the community at large. In our world, a lot of the time, obviously, we're not necessarily in a position to where we have to necessarily have to deal with P3 type relationships and joint ventures, unlike y'all. And initially, when the project was brought our way, of course, we started talking to contacts of ours within the industry, talking to developers that are connected to multiple different grocery operators. Obviously, that was the primary and the anchor tenant that you're looking for on this property. One of our developer contacts was very interested in the idea of the project. They He was quite confident that he could bring a grocer to the site if we could move forward and at the very least move forward with discussions regarding the city's vision and just get the ball rolling, move towards the next step. If we had the initial property already in possession, move forward with targeting your anchor as much as possible so that they don't end up turning and looking for other opportunities. Because what we know in our world is that none of these retailers, none of them really much care what city they're in. They don't care what street they're on. They don't care really about any of that kind of stuff. These are for-profit businesses that exist to generate revenue, period. And that is the driving decision, the driving point as they make decisions about their expansion plans. And so that is why when we had a developer that was showing interest in the project and the vision that the city had and thought that they could bring a grocer to the table, our initial reaction and our formal recommendation was to take advantage of that opportunity and of that interest. Pursue that conversation as far as you can, because ultimately landing the anchor, landing the grocer seemed to be the most critical component of this project. And so our recommendation is to pursue those opportunities in full, either until you land that grocer or until they basically say no, and then you're moving on to another target, because that will be the hardest, the hardest one to land. You're talking tens of thousands of square feet, the primary anchor, and getting them on board is what's going to create the opportunity to then more effectively recruit retailers to the additional space that will be created within the multi-use development in itself. So that was our primary recommendation. And then that also opens it up to moving forward. You don't like what you hear. You don't sort of like who we brought to the table. That conversation just maybe sputters out and y'all's level of confidence is not where you'd like it to be. You're still welcome to proceed with the RFP and to issue that RFP to see what other options come in. But just as a brief summation, that was our recommendation, was to pursue that conversation when you had a party showing interest with your primary anchor potentially being on board prior to issuing the RFP. But if there are any questions, we are more than happy to answer those.
Thank you. Are there any questions by the board of our retail strategies?
So you're recommending that Ameren Group, that I think we've got a unsolicited proposal. You talked about recommending something. Is that what you're recommending, this group that has come and given us a proposal?
We have been in contact with Ms. Sunday in regards to their proposal. Both groups are kind of in an interesting place because there's a lot of confidential conversations that are happening with our contacts, what grocer they would be bringing, and that's not necessarily something that we're in a position to disclose at this point in those conversations in a public forum. And that's a similar situation with the Ameren Group, where they've got ideas, they're talking to potential interested retailers, but they're not willing to disclose that publicly, and they're not willing to disclose that to us. So we're all kind of playing this interesting game of chess. But our primary recommendation prior to the Ameren Group submitting their proposal, we were already working, saying, okay, the city has a vision. We've got y'all's neighborhood plan and strategic vision. We can see exactly sort of what it is that y'all want. This is the world we operate in. Let's start calling some of our contacts, present just very loosely the idea, saying, hey, it's a mixed-use development with a grocery anchor, heavy on the retail with some residential on the back end. Do you have any interest? This is the market. Here's the possible location. Would you like to talk to us about it? We wanted to, and our recommendation was to pursue those conversations when we got positive feedback from the contacts that we were just initially discussing the idea with. We thought it would be most effective to pursue those conversations when you had an interested party that thought that they could bring a grocer to the site, as opposed to pushing everything out to an RFP. And part of the reason why we're at least advising to consider having that conversation first is there are a lot of development firms that are not going to invest the money on the front end to go through the extensive amount of work that it's going to take to create a robust, holistic proposal for the RFP when, essentially they're spending a large amount of time and money to just have the opportunity to talk to you about a project. So that's why we recommended that when you have an interested party at the table who thinks that they can bring you the grocery you're looking for, that you don't push them away from the table. You invite them to the table to come and at least have a conversation, because it's, as Ms. Sunday alluded to, it's not easy to land a highly operating, reputable grocer. These are not small little mom and pop stores. These are big operations. They have very defined criteria that they look for. And when it comes to groups of that size, again, they're not making hasty decisions. And they're also probably not going to be the ones that are going to be investing the time on the front end to go through the RFP process. So that, again, is why we advise extending a hand to say, hey, you've heard about this vision, you've heard about this plan, we'd love to talk to you about it. At the very least, it's a conversation. And again, you like how it goes, you continue the conversation. You don't really like what you hear, you're still welcome to discuss the opportunity with additional developers who also may be able to bring a grocer, or proceed down the pathway to issue the RFP and to see what public submissions come in. And the reality is, you might issue the RFP and nothing comes in. So that's another part of this as well. I mean, you just don't really know who is going to submit a proposal, go through the legwork, and the cost and the investment on the front end to submit that proposal. So that is just, again, a summation of the recommendation that we made.
And that being said, I appreciate the proposal and recommendation that you've brought to us and the opportunity I had to speak with you at length. But I am not in favor of foregoing an initial RFP process as the first step. Because yes, we do want to get a grocer retailer there, but this is also about community development and economic development and opportunities in this Census Tract 16 Glenwood to raise up the community as well. And it's going to be important who that retailer is. When we bring in a major retailer, it could flip the neighborhood completely. And so I want to start with the RFP process to see who is coming forward to be a part of the vision that we have for erasing the food desert, but also building up that community and being an economic development and community development anchor at that corner.
And I certainly appreciate your comments, and we don't necessarily disagree. And obviously, ultimately it is you all's decision. And I think really the difference is what chairs we're sitting in. And I think that's really the only difference. So doing a P3 venture, that's not something that we don't have experience with. We certainly do. And we look forward to continue to offer our assistance, guidance, and consultations on any specifics, questions, advice that y'all may be seeking.
Thank you. Jerome, could you please put the map back up, please, sir?
So if you brought somebody to the table to talk, how long would it be before we got some concrete answers about doing something?
Realistically, I couldn't say. I couldn't put any kind of time frame on there. These types of situations take quite some time. There is a lot of detail that goes into it. There are a lot of factors to be considered. Ultimately, what we were hoping to get on the front end to share with our primary developer contact who had showed interest was really trying to see if we could figure out some type of price. This was prior to a formal position or decision being made about going the P3 route. In the months prior, we've been discussing all of the different options. That was when we initially started this conversation with our contact. But that was one of the things that would potentially move the conversation forward. Obviously, that would be in a scenario in which The city would be potentially selling one or more of the parcels to get the project going, starting with the anchor. And from there, then you can also continue to develop around as you get the grocer and the anchor up and running, get them into the deal and get them moving forward. Then that potentially opens you up for the next phases. The initial idea to be able to put some type of time frame is almost not. I'm not in a position to really be able to say. We generally advise our clients and our partner cities that the standard commercial real estate deal generally takes a year, sometimes more. We've seen stuff take 3 years. The project that you're talking about, if you're wanting to move forward with the entire project from the word go, you're talking a very, very large, complex project. You know, I mean, we're not talking about a 1 acre lot with a single building being built and 30 parking spots. You know, we're talking 30 plus separate structures, a 30,000 square foot anchor, mixed use. It's quite an involved project, as you all know, and I think it's a great project and a very ambitious project that I think if you can take the vision and turn it into reality, I think it will be very effective. With that being said, I'm just not sure I could answer your question in regards to a time frame.
All right.
So are you recommending that Ameren's proposal is a good proposal, or do you have another proposal that's going to take an unknown length of time?
Our recommendation was that we had found a developer who thought he could bring a grocer to your site, and our recommendation was let's talk to him. Let's get him and y'all together, either in a room or on a call, and let's talk. Let's talk the vision. Let's talk what he can bring to the table. Let's have a zero obligation conversation that's focused on how do we move this project to the next steps. What options are available on y'all's end? What option is available potentially on the developer end? Where can we make a deal? And you don't get to the point of moving forward with a deal without these conversations happening. And so that's whether you go an RFP or not. I mean, these conversations are going to have to happen one way or the other. We just advise, our recommendation was you have an interested party, you should probably talk to them, just as y'all have with Ameren, who has submitted their proposal. And so you're going through the process to discuss with them what it is that they're seeking to move forward with in regards to the project. So, again, that was our primary recommendation was, and that's not us sitting in a public sector seat. This is us sitting in a very private sector seat saying, hey, if it was us, this is what we would do.
It sounds like we can talk to them forever plus a day. Or we can talk to Ameren about going ahead now. That's how I see it. If somebody sees something different, tell me.
So what So there's the letter that Patty Sunday has submitted, letter of interest. And there's Retail Strategies who has a potential possible maybe that we could initially talk to and forego the whole request for proposal process.
Well, we don't even have to do a request for proposal. They've got somebody they submitted. We've got Ameren that submitted. We can just say we want to work with Ameren. We don't have to go through the process of doing we don't even have to do. We do it because it's good and you get it out there. But this parcel's been here a lot, and I know. I'm just going to tell y'all something. Patty, think what you want, but Patty, I saw what she did with Publix on 231 North, and it was, I mean. You say what you will, but she's the one that got them here and at the table. And I saw the work she went through, and even against her own city that was pushing back. And I have utter faith that Patty has the heart to follow the Dover Coal plan. And I know it's not you doing it, but you're working with them. And I love the fact that someone's interested in talking right now, whether it's those people or them. But I don't know why personally, I wouldn't waste our time going through I want to say EHP because all the FEMA stuff. RFP. Yeah, I know. I'd rather just say, hey, it's our choice. Let's work with Ameren, somebody we know that is interested in following exactly what we did. The visioning process put all of this in place of what Glenwood wanted and smart incremental development and all that. But I mean, I also know, first of all, you got done with those parcels. That has been almost an impossible task. That also Patty had tried to help do when she was here at the city and CRA. I know that you guys had to have a hand in that too. So you've done almost the impossible already, but that means we're here. And, you're not committed to the letter. You're just committed to negotiating and talking. And
So one of the reasons I'm in favor of the RFP process is that we've had starts and stops with trying to get a grocer there. This is all y'all come if you want to come. 30 days, we see what we get. 30 days from now, we can then move forward with looking at whoever else might be out there. Because Retail Strategies may have someone else that would do a RFP. The Ameren Group has said that they were willing to go toe-to-toe with anyone in an RFP process.
which, I love that.
I just want to see forward movement.
Me too.
So I just want to point out for the sake of discussion, if you look at the, well, it just went away as soon as I went to talk about it, but the red parcels, those are the parcels that the city owns right now. I just want to be clear. So in order to be successful, those other parcels are going to have to be acquired by a developer. Correct. So, yeah. So make sure that everyone understands that.
If we go and go for an RFP today, this Ameren Group has said they want an answer by March 1st. Are we able to give them that answer by March 1st?
I believe Mr. Zimmerman has
question for you,
he
Mr.
sketched out a timeline that would work. I mean, we could have this posted tomorrow or Thursday at the absolute latest.
Right. There is a statute that governs how CRAs dispose of property, and disposing doesn't necessarily mean selling. It could be leasing, it could be working. And you need to give 30 days notice. And so we could run the notice tomorrow or the next day. It's tight, but the 30 days would run before the end of February. And then if the city were comfortable, they could meet and then decide the day after. And it wouldn't be the final deal, but it would be a notice of intent to enter into negotiations with a particular party. So that's something that they could do. They wouldn't have the final deal done by March 1st, but I don't believe that was a requirement that the final one,
Well, I'd like to bring to the attention that they originally gave this unsolicited offer back in July.
Yes.
So when we talk about an RFP, I've been trying to get one in Millville for like 2 years. And my point is that we're not, an RFP is just like who would be interested in it, we could get out tomorrow. But then how are we going to differentiate between people without putting conditions of what we want in there? And that's going to take time. It just seems like we could, I don't know. I don't have any skin in the game, but I just think that the Dover Coal thing and someone who's enriched in knowing what the community wants and what smart development is just seems.
The best thing.
A couple things that I wanted to kind of address. If you guys, I've been here now long enough to see 3 failures on this site.
Yes.
Over and over again. And part of the challenge is, and this is where the city is at a disadvantage. When we go purchase a property, and we've experienced this, we've got to go out and get an appraisal. Well, what happens if the person says, we won't sell at that price? Your whole thing's dead. So the only person that can actually solve this problem is the private sector. So, and you're going to have somebody that can be patient, that can put in multiple rounds of investment over a long period of time to acquire the parcels that are needed to do a assemblage. That is the most difficult thing to do in development, is assembling parcels. And you've got more parcels on this corner than most corners in the entire city. And so it is a difficult process. So I asked Brandy to have Jerome put up this. So we went through 3 rounds of Dover Coal planning with the Glenwood community. There was a point in time that we had protests. I mean, legitimate. And this is the final result that we came with. And so, and what you see, there's a grocer as an anchor. But what it also brought Dover Coal is not amateurs at this. They work for developers all around the country to create plans that can be executed, not ones that look good on paper, but can actually be constructed. And so the part of the beauty behind this specific plan is it allows for incremental progress. So now if you go back to the other screen, see this image, go back to the old one. You can actually start the Dover Coal plan with what's already assembled. Now, you may not be able to get that major retail grocer immediately straight off the bat, but you could be in there putting in townhomes with commercial spaces below. You could be in there putting together community spaces for people to enjoy. That's the beauty of the plan and the neighborhood plans, is that you can achieve them. Small steps over a period of time. But I'll tell you what's unique and what ultimately why we failed beyond just our own obstinance at times. But it takes patient investors. And so what the specific group is, and I did get to meet with them one time. I've talked to Patty numerous times, but I actually got to meet with the investment group that came in, understand what their financial resources are, why they see Glenwood as a great opportunity for them. It has a lot to do with opportunity zones, and it has a lot to do with the ease and availability to deploy capital. And so when they create capital gains in an opportunity zone, they have a limited window of time to earmark those funds. That's what's creating the time frame in which someone's saying, we got to have something by March 1st. If that passes by, they have to pay capital gains on those dollars. So I'm just going to throw a number out. Let's say it's $10 million that they've created in capital gains that they have to deploy someplace. If they can't get that earmarked before their timeline, it gets booked and they have to pay taxes on it. They're not going to do that. They're going to deploy in a different opportunity zone someplace else. That's what they will do. Now, what's their risk? They're making a commitment to put their capital gains here. A year from now, if they're a failure, guess what they're doing? They're going to pay taxes on all that money. So they have a vested interest to seeing it succeed. And there's multiple rounds of capital that come into that. That is what this entire program of Opportunity Zone was created for. And this is an opportunity to do something great for the Glenwood community. So, Jenna and Janice, and I think that, having watched this failed so many times, like the best chance is patient investors that will work with diligence and do an incremental plan. That is it. Like, if we try to shoot for the stars the first go around and say, like, we're waiting for the anchor to show up tomorrow, what stops that anchor from just going and picking the mall corner that's already assembled, that's coming on the market with Seritage, and just go in there? You've got to have somebody that can stick through the patience and the cycles that it's going to take to assemble this property, and that is difficult. Government can't do it. Private sector is even challenging to do it, and you need a patient partner. I mean, that's kind of what it's all.
I'd like to ask Patty Sunday if she would come.
Yeah, Miss Sunday, if you could please come back to the podium.
Thank you.
Go ahead, board member.
So I would.
No proposal. I need one inaccuracy. The nice people at Retail Strategies who know their business said, and you've already seen our proposal. No, you haven't seen our proposal because we haven't made it, because we've been waiting in this process that started in July, knowing that March is coming up.
So I've asked you to come back, and if you would share with us what you can.
Yes, ma'am.
About the proposal from your group.
Oh, that's
the
so
potential
kind. Yes,
proposal.
That makes me feel better. I was really happy about the TIF too when y'all passed that. And congratulations to those folks. So Dover Coal training is good. Working with you, Commissioner, is good. The process and the vision for the property involves showing some of the plans. We have so many plans to groups of community members, perhaps at the socials or something else. But there are only, to the grocers I've spoken with who know me from other things, it's not a new relationship, there's only 2 places that they're interested in, if all of that was read, right? It's very clear because of traffic patterns, DOT cuts, all those fun planning vocabulary things. So it's very clear that there are perimeter things that could start right now. And in those perimeter things, are all the best practices that I think I've heard in my 5 years around here, which were incubator spaces for new businesses at no cost, a park, a garden, a trail to the high school. My brain is mush.
So those are the community development pieces.
Yes, ma'am.
But we've just talked about some concerns about a timeline. Would you speak to that?
Thank you. Yes. So the funding is there. We were maybe a bit over-prepared. On that day that you were busy with your grants, when we met with Nevin, they had their money. They wanted to show it to you. They wanted to show you their deposits. It's significant. They have the cash. And Nevin goes, no, not yet, not yet. Because they were trying to do due diligence. They were trying to do due diligence to say, we are qualified because they do have that deadline of the other very wonderful investor with them that would be wonderful. So the housing could start as soon as the snow's gone. It's almost gone. So the housing could start after Nevin would create some type of contract or letter of interest, could start this summer if the legal part was there. We have plans. We have townhouse plans. We have costs. We have 2 spec houses right now in the community. We have costs on those. And then there would be a research phase, which I would adore, where we really define the customer. In informal research, what I found, which surprised me, which was also super fun, was that Glenwood folks that want to move home wanted a townhouse with a threshold of 300,000. In my mind, I thought nothing should be over 200. I was wrong. I was so wrong. They said, if you're going to do this Dover Coal plan, where do we reserve it? So, to answer your question, the housing could start immediately. There is a separate fund already to buy up land. It's not a secret. We would follow best practices and so forth. I don't know if that answers your question. So housing can start.
It does, but also speak to the retail business economic development piece, because that would bring jobs as well as the grocery store.
Thank you. One thing is, and I do this in any of my projects, and it's really invigorating, is downstream, if you're going to spend, and this is about 30 million, if you're going to spend 30 million, how much of that can you run down into the community? Can you have the people that do the site work be here? Can you have the AC and duct vendor be here? Can they be a Glenwood vendor? Can they pour the cement foundations? Do we have general contractors? So one thing is trying to make sure that money, as much as possible, filters through the community. Can there be food trucks feeding the workers? Can the caterers, we have so many caterers in Glenwood and Millville, can they do some of the things? So that's some immediate economic development. The other thing is to be very careful not to put cottage businesses out of business. We have hair people, we have nail people, we have caterers. And so we have to be careful about who the complementary retail people are, because part of the revitalization, which is so well demonstrated, Commissioner Jenna and Commissioner Josh downtown. I mean, when we have guests come here, they're like, where's a chain? I'm like, there is no chains. That's because of what y'all have done well, and even anyone on St. Andrews. So it's the same type of thing. I don't know if that answers your question.
That does. Thank you.
Thank you. So no presentation, just informal. I think we've met with everyone at least once. And thank you for considering it. And if retail strategy says, if we we can't get the grocer, like we have one, we'd be like, great, here, go for it. But guys, you got to move that dirt. The estimate on this right now is $8 million to move the dirt. If Jan were here, she'd say, Patty, that's $45,000 a month in interest charges. This is big cash money stuff. Private capital is good for this kind of stuff. I kind of think about William Harrison that time. He was saying something, I thought he was going to cry. And I thought it was a little bit odd. Go Gators. But that's how I feel also about this, is that I think we got it. I hope you got the letter from Rob Rosner. I hope you got the letter from Anthony. These are people that care about this community and have worked here and are doing their best practice. Thank you.
Patty, before you even leave, you can sit down, but I know one of your greatest concerns, because I've heard you talk about this, is acquiring that property that the city doesn't own and handling that with such sensitivity and care and concern for the Glenwood community. And I take your word on that I know that you would care about that. And I would just like to say that the Cove would be glad to have a grocery store.
I'm sorry, in my fever before I forgot to tell you. So to hit the metric of a number, it takes Cedar Grove, Springfield, Millville, Glenwood, and the Cove, and the private school parents and the First Baptist private school parents to hit the threshold of just critical mass of bodies.
I remember that.
And you can't do, well, I reran them today, and you can't do one without the other. The Cove couldn't do it by themselves, and all those other people can do it. It's actually really a blessing of a mix. And here's the tactical thing. If the city does not do this, someone's going to beat us. Springfield or someone's going to beat us, because if you draw the lines to where Callaway's Aldi is and everything else, there will be a grocery store somewhere between here and there. So do we want the tax revenue, or do they? Some of it is tactical. It's a sport, y'all. Okay.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. So in an effort to try to move this along, I do know that as Mr. Zimmerman spoke, we do have to notice because we're potentially disposing of CR assets. However, we could negotiate while we do the proper notice, if that is something the board would want to direct and approve staff to do.
So, Mr. Zimmerman, what the city, you the president of what you are in this role today at this time, yes.
I'm still John.
Has just said a way forward for us would be to direct you to notice that we're going to move forward with negotiating this property or disposing of this property, and likewise begin negotiations with the Amarin Group.
Correct. There's a requirement for 30-day notice. That could start, negotiations could start tomorrow. And the only caveat is that you don't actually conclude negotiations until the 30 days has run. And we could put a notice in tomorrow as well. And while we're negotiating, the notice runs. And then before you actually approve a deal or a conclusion, then that we would have satisfied the statutory requirement about CRA property.
So that being said, I'd like to move that we take the course of action just identified by Mr. Zimmerman, which is to, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. There is a motion and a second on the floor. I think. Go ahead, Board Member Street.
I just wanted to say one more thing. This is a difficult project, and the entity may fail in their endeavors. However, this is the closest that we have ever gotten to getting here, and so I think that sometimes you got to take a risk, and they got skin in the game. We got skin in the game. Let's see if we can make this work for Glenwood, because I think it'd be a really good thing for the community
and for the city. Yes.
Don't give it to him.
So, Patty.
All right. Go ahead, Board Member Granger.
So I sense a little bit of passion from you in this. And so I think that's amazing. And I would love to see this successful. I do realize, though, that this may take many years to get us from A to B on this. So, yeah. So thank you for bringing this forward. And thank you for the passion for that neighborhood and for moving things forward like this. Thank you.
All right. I think it would be wise for Mr. Zimmerman just to restate your understanding of the motion, just so there's clarity from the board and the public. Please, Mr. Zimmerman. Thank you.
Okay. Before I restate it, I'd like to ask Ms. Sunday a question.
Please come to the podium. I'm sorry. People in line. Thank you.
Just a quick question. We need to identify, for the purposes of the record, the entity or entities that we will be negotiating with, other than just Patty Sunday's.
Yes, their representative. I'm kind of their project manager. We've kind of discussed what is going to be the role. We don't even know yet. It's Amarin, I'm speaking in Spanish, Amarin. I think I put it on the letter. I will, if not, I'll get it to you tomorrow. And I also think I,
Sunday,
Design
yeah,
Group,
it's the
LLC.
Amarin Design Group and Capital Partner.
I thought I sent
Thank
a
you.
certificate. I'll go back and look in my email. I think I sent the certificate with the first one. However, I'm glad you asked that because Commissioner Josh brought up a point. On the last meeting, they brought 2 more friends with them who are just incredible humanitarians. And they also want to join the fund, which would give us so much more capacity. So I don't think legally they have formed a partnership. Does that matter to you?
No.
No.
Okay, because that would be their investors downstream.
They- the
You
main-
met them, Nevin.
Yeah, oh, I know, and they're delightful to meet with. The key is that we now have the name, and so we know it's a group associated with them and, of course, you.
Yes, I'm something, but yeah,
Yes,
good.
okay.
Thank you.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to authorize staff to immediately begin negotiations with, what's the name of the group?
Amarin Design Group and Capital Partner.
And their associates, and also run a notice required by Florida statute that indicates that the CRA is considering disposing property, that notice, and that we would not conclude negotiations until the 30-day time period has run on the notice.
All right. To the 2 board members that made the motion in the second, do you concur?
Yes.
All right. Is there any further discussion or questions from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to say ordinarily when somebody tells me that they got 30 days, you got to hurry up, make up your mind, I would tell them we're not going to take your proposal. We're going to think a little harder. But I think this is really a superb group. And they have, they're very humanitarian. They're very almost altruistic. They're almost preachers. They're wonderful. And so I think, like Commissioner Street says, it's a bumpy road and it's going to be long. But I think these are good people to be involved in. I think they'll do a good job for the city, and I'm delighted that we're able to do it.
All right. Any further questions or discussions from the board? Seeing none, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Item number 12, presentation and approval of the fiscal year 2024-2025 CRA Annual Work Plan. You can just start going through the presentation, sir. Thank you. During the 2024 legislative session, House Bill 7013 passed on April 26th of 2024, which updates the reporting requirements under Florida Statute 189.0694 for special districts. The revised requirements include establishing goals and objectives, as well as creating performance measures and standards. These changes are intended to improve accountability and transparency in special districts by ensuring they have measurable objectives and regularly evaluate their effectiveness. To comply with these new requirements, staff has developed a work plan that aligns with the CRA Board's adoption of the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Once approved, the work plan will be made publicly available on the CRA website. Additionally, the details of the approved work plan will be discussed at the CRA district socials in February of 2025. Staff recommends the board approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 CRA annual work plan, which is provided in your packets and is also being displayed and scrolled through the screen this evening. Staff would entertain a motion to approve the annual work plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual work plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions for staff in regards to the CRA annual work plan? Again, acknowledging it will be made public on the CRA website tomorrow morning. Seeing none, and with a motion and a second on the floor, Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Good work, Ms. Circle and Ms. Webb. All right. Item number 13 is the discussion of the memorandum regarding the research, analysis, and recommendation of CRA socials versus advisory committees versus expanding the CRA board. At the November 19th, 2024 CRA board meeting, a citizen proposed the creation of an advisory board to represent the community's interests better. In response, the CRA board directed CRA staff to analyze the pros and cons of 1, establishing advisory committees, 2, expanding the current board to include up to 4 additional members, 1 from each district, or 3, proceeding with the newly introduced CRA Socials plan for implementation in 2025. It is important to note that the citizen was unaware of the already planned CRA Socials at the time of the suggestion. This memorandum presents the findings of this analysis and provides a recommendation for the most effective approach to foster community engagement. Staff recommends adopting the CRA Socials as the primary method for public engagement, as they offer the most effective and equitable approach to involving the community in Panama City's redevelopment efforts. This strategy ensures broad participation, transparency, and accountability while preventing the limitations of a self-serving representation. And I'll just add, there were some questions asked during the time of audience participation, and I do want to address that. So the place where staff did the research was through the Florida Redevelopment Agency representatives, researching Florida statutes, watching and accepting knowledge from previous public meetings and citizen comments, concerns raised in the past with the CRA boards and past advisory committees. The memo states that socials help eliminate the possibility of self-serving accusations, which by opening up the meetings to everyone. And again, anyone that's been involved in local government knows that that is a common accusation that many boards deal with. It is my understanding that the advisory boards have dealt with that in the past. And again, the word that was added in there was it may provide self-serving. I think there's always a possibility for the potential for that. It's something we need to be mindful of and guard ourselves against. And I take responsibility for that memo as presented. It was not meant to disparage anyone, but the possibility for something like that to happen is a possibility. And again, it is an accusation that is thrown around both publicly and privately in staff. And we've got staff that have been involved in this for many, many years. Again, staff would gladly follow whatever recommendation that the board hereby chooses. We did, again, consist of looking into, again, what the subject matter expert states, predominantly the Florida Redevelopment Agency seeking best practices in their advice, and we've presented the options for you here today. I will state, though, that we talked about 4 potential, and this is one I know that Mr. Zimmerman wanted us to make sure that we touched on. But the Florida statutes, you may only add up to 2 members to this board. And so I think that the reason why that would be a concern is that, you know, the initial thought was to add 1 from each particular ward, but you will not be able to do that because of Florida statute. So then you risk, well, which 2 wards are we going to pick? And so I think if you look at the full memo, we provide both pros and cons of each of the 3 options. Staff fully acknowledges that there are both pros and cons to each. Even the one that we have put forward as the recommendation of a CRA social, or some people would call those public meetings or town halls. So this memo is before you today. And again, if anyone took the language personally, I do apologize on behalf of the CRA team. But again, these are common accusations that special districts and boards and committees deal with all the time. And that was the advice that we got, again, from the Florida Redevelopment Agency representative. So at this time, I would turn it over to entertain a motion from the board, and staff is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Before we do that, I brought this up at a city commission meeting that we have advisory committees, advisory boards. So this is not meant to replace that, and that's or is it meant to replace that?
So great question, Mr. Chairman. And yes, you did ask that question in your role as mayor. And we will be providing this memo as well, specifically tomorrow evening for the commission meeting. But it will specifically deal with, obviously not necessarily expanding it, because you're not going to be able to expand the city commission, but it will lay out in regards to creating a committee for the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department, concerning that as an option, as opposed to doing the socials or the town halls. I do know, and I would ask Mr. Zimmerman to weigh on this as well, but if you do form, one of the concerns and one of the unintended consequences that people might not know about, but if you create a more formal committee or board to advise the commission on items, whether for the CRA or for the or for the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department, which we'll discuss tomorrow evening, you open up public records, minutes have to be taken, sunshine law are challenges. And so that's one other consideration as well into that. So I would, again, defer to Mr. Zimmerman to expand on that, but that was also one of the concerns that was raised. And it's my understanding that the city has dealt with this many times over the last number of years.
Okay, so we're going to have something different and distinct that we can talk about tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I think you are wanting to do very similar, like create an advisory committee.
Right.
So the same two recommendations, you would just eliminate option 3, and option 1 would be to have a which is kind of what Mr. Mefford and his team are doing right now with PCR, which is more the town halls, open public meetings, soliciting feedback, and encouraging elected official participation, as opposed to option 2 tonight, which is the advisory committee. The same concept, the same pros and cons still apply, whether it's for the CRA or whether it's for a particular department in the city. You just would eliminate option 3 because, again, you can't expand the city commission without a charter review and the citizens voting on increasing the size of the Panama City Commission.
Okay, I haven't reviewed the board book for tomorrow, but I can, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in something for the entire city.
Yep.
So this is something else right now.
It's just CRA.
This is
Yeah.
CRA, okay?
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
I do have a couple.
Yes, sir. Board Member Tree?
One of the things that I think what would help me is in the advisory thing is to narrow focus down to something. If like for instance, like we've had work programs. I mean, I think that's a good example. Like that's something that we could bring a board representative or however we want to do it to help with creating those work programs. I think I said this last time, the Waterfront Partnership kind of serves as an advisory table for me in the St. Andrews District. But there's not an official like mechanism, I guess, in that means they're the advisory board. So I don't know, as this dialogue continues, I would just encourage us to kind of define what we're trying to accomplish and what would be the objectives of those boards. So.
But this right now, what are you thinking about the CRA though?
I think for me, like, I don't know how we pick 2 district representatives and leave 2 out. That's probably my only concern with the way it's laid out right now. Is there?
Well, I definitely excited about the CRA socials that are coming up. Anytime I've done town halls or I've done half town halls, I've done all kinds of stuff. It's just so casual and comfortable and you get a lot of feedback from people. So I'm looking forward to the socials that come up, but it doesn't mean that we can't do socials and something, like I kind of like the idea of expanding the CRA board because it brings on that citizen input, or it might bring on a business view of somebody who's in that district. But I have noticed with Destination PC, it does kind of feel like the more we add, the less it kind of feels like it kind of is, I don't know. I mean, I could see where it's getting bigger, but I also see how you have like the commission being the same people on that. And I mean, I'd be open to any of that. I was just saying I'm looking forward to CRA socials to see how effective those are. I shouldn't know if y'all had any strong opinions about.
Board Member Halligus, that is one option. We can proceed with the CRA socials throughout the month of February, and at the March meeting, the CRA board could revisit that, having feedback and seeing how the CRA socials went throughout the month of February, and also get feedback from the public as well.
Could we put that as part of the social to have this discussion with each one of the CRAs?
Good idea.
So,
Absolutely.
I think that would be a good way to kind of get some feedback to maybe get to a solution.
So our vision for the socials would be, the respective, commissioner for that ward would help host. And obviously if the chairman would want to attend as the representative of the entire city, and also Ward 3, it's going to be a properly public notice meeting. And so y'all could attend. We expect there to be large members of the public there as well as the press. And so, we will ask those questions. And it's my perspective that we as staff intend to let the public and the elected officials drive that conversation. So we would be there to listen as well as the elected officials.
I do have, I was thinking about it. I don't know why I understand the formal difference between an advisory and a committee, but I've never had to have an advisory. Like if I like Sudeth Park in the Cove or Daffin Park, I could form on my own a committee, or now I don't have to because Keith Meffer's so awesome. He's like everywhere. Oh, he's just great. And he's always
Trying to keep him humble.
Okay, I know. But like Mackenzie Park, when we did that, we kind of opened it up to anybody really. But putting a committee together for certain things that we've done, even Martin, it wasn't an advisory board, but it was a committee that worked together for a specific goal, kind of like what Josh is saying. So if we have a CRA, like I was thinking it'd be great to put together a CRA committee for, what if now that we're potentially going to sell the Francie's building, then we should put together a committee that, hey, well, what should we focus on the next capital improvement project for downtown? So to me, it's not so much like one person, because somebody that might be interested in what the next capital improvement project might not be the same person who would be interested in Daffin Park, right? So I think one advisory committee might kind of close us in, but I do think citizen input in committees are important. I just don't understand why we have this push between calling it advisory versus committee. That's what I'm kind of confused about. I don't know anyway, so I plan on doing that with capital improvement for that and whatever else. But I just think that, if committees are what we're looking for, like, this development, that we, can put together a committee for the development. That's just for that, but we don't have to do these formal articles of corporation and sunshine laws and all that kind of thing. So I just think we're kind of maybe missing the point of that way we spread out to whoever's interested in being in a part.
How about if we have a motion to continue the CRA socials? I guess that's for another month. And at each of the socials, like Commissioner Street suggested, we ask people what they're interested in as far as expanding citizens review, something like that, and then bring it back to the next meeting to.
And just to elaborate on what he said, if you're willing to put that in your motion, if we could maybe have a couple ideas of things that we're knowing or that we know are coming up in those CRAs. We could have a sign-up list, of like, hey, would you be interested in this committee if, when it comes to this, would you be?
That's a long motion. Can you restate?
I just babble. I babble and they put my motion together, but it's his motion, not mine. I was just trying to piggyback on top of that. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, would you restate your
That's not
motion,
really
please?
My motion is to proceed with item 3 while we have until all the CRA socials have been accomplished. And at those socials, we ask the people who show up and are interested what they feel about representation, if they feel we should have a committee or just add more people add one representative perhaps to each of the CRA districts.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Sure. Second.
All right, we have a second. I just want to clarify, and I apologize we didn't catch this. So to prevent any confusion, in the agenda item, option 3 is the CRA socials, but in the actual memo, option 3 is the expanded CRA board. So the chairman is suggesting that we proceed with the newly introduced CRA socials for February. That's option 3 in the agenda item, which he is reading. In the memo, though, it's option number 1. So just want to make sure everyone's tracking. All right, there's a motion and a second. Are there any questions or further discussions from the board?
So to be clear, the motion is for option 1, but to ask for input on the other options. By option 1, I mean the CRA socials.
The CRA socials.
That's 3.
I know.
I'm sorry.
No, you were right, Mr. Chairman. On the agenda item that is a summary provided to staff and the elected officials, it is option number 3. But on the memo, it's option number 1.
Oh,
so
sorry.
that is an oversight. We should have caught that and made it consistent. Apologies. You stated it correctly, Mr. Granger.
Thank you.
Yep. So we will proceed with the CRA socials. That is the motion. And at the CRA socials, we will specifically, in addition to whatever the public wants to speak about, we will solicit input on advisory committees as well as expanding the CRA board, knowing that Florida statute only allows us to expand it by 2, going from 5 to 7. All right. Is there
Just right.
Yep. Any further questions or comments or deliberation by the board? All right. Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And the revised agenda has item number 14. Now is the acknowledgement of the staff and volunteers at 80 Harris for the operation of the warming centers. Board Member Lucas, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Just want to recognize that during the Winter Storm Enzo, we participated with Bay County Emergency Services in offering a warming center that served a total of 131 overnight guests.
Wow.
This incredible effort would not have been possible without our 126 dedicated volunteers who gave 647.5 hours of their time, valued at some $20,000. The first night, 55 guests, peaking at 96 guests on Tuesday, the night of the storm, then 94 and 93 each night. And the good news, in addition to that, is through the diligence of the Rebuild Bay Executive Director and her staff and the volunteers, there are those who did not go back out on the streets. Some 20 people were directed to different programs, to bus tickets, to family and programs outside of Panama City.
Wow, that's good.
And several were placed in jobs. And so the Executive Director of Rebuild Bay, who managed the operation, is here tonight. And I just wanted to acknowledge Donna Pilson and the entire volunteer team and staff. We worked with Bay County Emergency Services, churches, nonprofit organizations. All meals were donated, volunteers served. And so just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Lucas. Any other comments or questions regarding this from any of the other board members?
Do again want to acknowledge I know you said other, this is my other personality. Do want to
Go right ahead,
acknowledge the Parks, Culture and Recreation Department and others in the city who provided assistance, serving and making sure that everything went well. So. I think he's
All right.
okay.
All right. Seeing no other comments, item number 15 is desire to discuss the Incremental Development Alliance workshop requested by Board Member Lucas. Board Member Lucas, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir.
And I believe we have a video. Just let us know when you want it played, ma'am.
Will do. The redevelopment, revitalization, or as I like to call it, the renaissance of the Glenwood community includes, I think, helping people understand how to develop their own properties. And the Incremental Development Alliance is a group that does just that. And so this video clip we'll hear, and I'd like for my colleagues on the board to entertain the possibility of us bringing them here, whether we do that tonight or at some point in the future. I wanted to introduce this publicly tonight.
Calling all somebodies. We show small developers how to build something needed in their neighborhoods. And we coach cities to make sure their zoning rules aren't preventing the kind of development they actually want. This shouldn't be remarkable, but today it really is. We care about the places we live, so we formed this alliance to do something that no one else was doing. We train people how to do real estate development that prioritizes the health of home. Because thousands of people across this continent feel that their neighborhoods are not evolving in a healthy way. Whether there's too much bad stuff or not enough good, they feel that their place is at risk, and they know intuitively that nobody is coming to save them. More importantly, they know that the best person for the job is a local. If they want their neighborhoods to get better, they're going to need to do that work themselves. That's where we come in. We host workshops to train small developers. We coach policymakers to be supportive, and we connect people who don't realize they're on the same team. All of this comes together to help regular people build small, hardworking buildings in their neighborhoods. Buildings that people actually like. By regular people, we mean you don't need $1 million to get started. Our people make something happen with hustle, strong relationships, or a normal mortgage. By hardworking buildings, we mean practical and income producing. We help people develop buildings that pay for themselves and can stand the test of time. By likable, we mean buildings that are an improvement to the street, that people are happy to see. Our hypothesis is that when you do this, real estate development becomes a regenerative thing that elevates people and places, much preferable to the extractive model of development that locals have every right to fear. Of course, you can't make this work easy. Nothing worth doing is easy. But we can help you avoid major pitfalls along the way and help you figure out where to start. You can learn more about what we do and find training options near you at incrementaldevelopment.org. Today, people tell us our approach is refreshing. They see our principles like commit yourself to a place you love that needs you, employ, support, and partner with locals, and build things that give more than they take. And they see us as part of the new movement toward local self-determination. They're not wrong, but our work is just as much unearthing an old tradition. There was a time when people were not afraid of real estate development because the stuff being built was better than what it was replacing. And so great cities emerged incrementally, one improvement at a time, and local people benefited from the opportunities that new development brought with it. As the economy changed and as policy changed, we stopped building our own neighborhoods the way we used to. This has increased the efficiency and profitability of development, but it tends not to create places that people really connect to or take pride in. Our mass-produced environments often decay long before any hominess or enduring connection can even take root. This leaves us with a pretty miserable landscape. And the go big or go home real estate system has sidelined entire segments of the country from the chance to own and benefit from developments in their own neighborhood. This leaves us with generational wealth gaps. There is still so much room in our cities for this small step though. And anyone with hustle and heart can do this work because it's built at the messy scale of relationships, not the massive scale of institutional finance. So take a look at your block. Is there an empty lot? A building that needs love, a tree that needs planting, a room that needs renting, an opportunity to start a business? We are a nonprofit alliance of city builders working to bring back the incremental model of development. Because if local people who care aren't strengthening their own neighborhoods, who will?
So this is a resource I'd like to have us bring to Panama City and make available in our CRA districts to help those who want to develop properties but don't know where to start and to make connections here locally. I've asked the staff to look into, I don't know if you were able to or not, get information on what it would involve to bring them here.
No, we have.
Yeah, so we have not yet, Board Member Lucas, but we'll be happy to. And I think we'll double check that no one checked. I know we had brief conversations about it when it was put on our radar by you at your request. And so we're definitely happy to look into it. And at the February meeting, bring back some information, maybe even a proposal for the board to consider at the February meeting.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a brief comment. Janice, I think this is a perfect match. One of the reasons why, and you're going to see this from a Republican saying this is the answer to gentrification happening in communities. What Incremental Development Alliance stands for is helping residents, helping people that live in your local community to redevelop and develop the property that they have. So where they're not having to go sell to the next person that makes money, they're able to tap into that investment and create a better life for themselves, but also a better community. So Incremental Development Alliance is the perfect after tomorrow, and what I hope that we approve the neighborhood plans finally after how many years, there is no better match to help our people tap into what they can now potentially do with their property inside these areas. And so, I don't need to see, I've seen what they've done in other communities, and I know the kind of work that they encourage, and you'll see people that will develop that have never developed before. They may put an ADU in the back of their house, and now they've got a rental property that their mother-in-law is staying in, or somebody else is staying in on the weekend. I mean, it will untap potential, if our people grasp the vision of it, that some people never thought they would ever be in real estate or capitalizing on their largest investment, their home. So anyway, so thank you for bringing it forward. I think it's fantastic.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board for the good of the order? If none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All right, call the roll, Ms. Sagehorn.
Board Member Halligus?
Yes.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Brian,
Meeting
that is
adjourned.
your thing. You were the